Let's go. All right, we live. Anyone who's here, I can't tell if anyone's here or not, but this is kind of a test stream. This is where we're gonna sort of test the waters when it comes to being able to write on stream, doing sort of writing sprints, having moments where we turn up a little bit of background music and get some work done. This is really in preparation for October and November, when we're going to be planning and writing a novella. So if you've never started, finished, anything like that, this is your chance to do so. In a community of people who are all writing together. National Novel Writing Month, that's like, one of the big things that a lot of people are doing. We're not affiliated with anything like that. It's just our own little thing. But you can, hold on, let's move you a little closer. You can come hang out and write with us. And so that's what we're kind of testing out today. The way that we're gonna test it out, if you're not part of the Discord community, the way that we're gonna test it out is we're going to do a little writing for our short story competition. If you have seen this, if you've been a part of it, if you're in the Discord, you know about it. If you're not in the Discord, this may be the first time you hear about it. In our Discord community, we do short story writing contests all the time. Well, twice, about once every other month. Maybe a little bit longer depending on what I got going on. But we do writing challenges, not contests. And you can hop in the Discord. The invite is in the description, and check that out if you are so interested. If you can see my screen here. Let me tell you what we got going on. We are not partnered. I don't want to say that this is like an official partnership or anything, but when I reached out to this writing platform, this writing software, NovelPad, and we were talking about the writing challenges that we have on the Discord, and how we could have some sort of, maybe if I could bring some sort of value to my audience, that conversation grew and blossomed into something really, really cool. So we are actually hosting our writing challenge on NovelPad. You can get all of the details, all the information back in the Discord, link below if you're not already part of that. But what we're gonna be doing today is I'm planning out my short story that I'm writing for the writing challenge, the theme being 3 rules. You have to write a story inspired by that phrase. You can take it any direction that you want, any genre that you want, whether it's horror or romance or fantasy or science fiction. I'm gonna plan mine out, sort of take you through my thought process in terms of how I would go about planning a short story and writing a short story. And we're gonna do that with a new project here in NovelPad. So I've been thinking about this sort of passively. I do a lot of my story planning completely passively. And this is just like, not me sitting down with a notebook or some sort of notes, not me sitting down anywhere with like with the intention to plan a story. But when I do all of my story planning, it is like kind of, I'm laying in bed late at night thinking about something, about what's a cool idea, or I am out watering the garden and I'm like, hey, this random thought just crossed my mind. How can I incorporate that into some story idea that I have? That's how I go about planning my stories. And so last night I was thinking about this theme. I'll write it here so you can see it. 3 rules. Thinking about this theme, 3 rules. And I was like, okay, you could take this a dozen different ways. Maybe this is going to be a genie in the bottle type shtick, right? A story about, maybe you got some wishes and there's all these rules that come with them. And when you break those rules, your wish goes away and you lose what you've gained. And so we have a story of someone gaining everything and then losing everything. Maybe there's a happy ending. Maybe it's something like that. JP says, so excited to work alongside you after drop my kids off for the day. Let's go. This is Ink. Hello, Ink. Ink JP, let me know which one you prefer, but I just saw you posting over in the Discord, so that's awesome. Really fun exercise, and I appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much. That is very kind of you to say. When doing things like this, you never know how it's going to kind of work out. You never know if it's going to be if other people are going to enjoy it as much as you do. So it was kind of a gamble when we started doing this, but very clearly it's been a lot of fun. Let me do some stream work here and get everything situated, I can tell you right now, we need a color source called chat background. Let's make this a little darker. Make it, this is a little quality of life feature. Just put this at 100 by 100 and then we'll resize it. Because I can't see chat, and that's a travesty. All the Happy Squirrel says, good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? Make sure we have this behind our YouTube chat. Oh, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. And then let's move YouTube chat over to the right a bit. We'll see if that chops things off. All right, there we go. Now we can see everyone's lovely messages. Nice. All right, so I was thinking last night about this 3 rules theme, right? And I was thinking, okay, do I want to write a story that's purposely trying to subvert the theme in an unexpected way? Or is that maybe something that would be, I don't know. Maybe I was, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what, maybe personally, that's not what I want to do. Happy Squirrel says there's a Discord. Oh, your day's about to change. Link in the description. Go check it out. We have over 300 people, all writers, all people who love to talk about story, who want to share their writing and want to do more of it. And the best part is that we do some writing challenges over there, and that's what we're talking about today, and you should definitely go check it out. Love to see you in the Discord, all the Happy Squirrels. We actually just added a channel called the Pet Palace, and if you are so inclined, you can share pictures of happy squirrels yourself. All right. Hello, Pasqua. Pasqua. Am I pronouncing that right? Pasqua? I think it's Pasca. Let me know. Okay, so I was thinking of, for those who don't know about our Discord, I should say again, for those who don't know about our Discord, we do writing challenges over in the Discord, and we are currently right in the middle of one, which means you can go in the Discord, you can go to the announcements channel, and you can click the button to join the writing challenge right now. Right now. There's already 30 something people who are over there planning their story out, writing their story, and you can be a part of it too. It's an excuse to start something, finish something, and be part of a community that's writing. It's really fun. Check it out. The theme for this writing challenge is 3 rules, and you can take that phrase any direction that you want. Any sort of story that's inspired by this phrase of 3 rules. 3 rules is the phrase. You can write as long as it's fiction. It's supposed to be between 2,000 and 5,000 words, and it is due in the due date that you would see in the announcements channel if you go check that out. All right, and I bring all that up because I'm gonna be doing some writing today and take you through my planning process, talk to you about sort of the challenges, the successes, the failures you might encounter in planning your own story. And we're gonna do some writing on stream, and we're testing this out for November when we're doing a much bigger writing event called Novella November. And if you want to invest your time into completing a work, especially if you've never completed a work before, this is your way to do so. This is where you can be part of a community that's trying to get 40,000 words down. Dan says, good morning from Atlanta. Good morning. Good morning. Now that is cooking me. All right. Wait, cooking you as in, is it nighttime over there and I'm blasting you with bright white light? Well, good news. There's actually a, check this out. Check this out. Diori Mori, I got you. You talk, I listen. You talk, I listen. That is the theme of writing theory. Reaper Boy says, fixing a broken story with a reboot sequel. All right. Okay, so let's talk about 3 rules, because here's what I was thinking. I was thinking, how am I going to take this theme? I think there's a couple sort of things right off the bat that come to mind right? This is going to be, right? The idea of like, maybe I'm going to write a story. It's a horror story. You break 3 rules, you die. Whatever, maybe it's a monster, maybe it's a serial killer, whatever the case may be. I think that's a natural way that I would consider 3 rules. I would also think of like a genie. Like, okay, you know, we have our wishes, 3 rules, 3 wishes. Maybe there's something there. This is the mayor we need. I live to serve. Hey, you talk, I listen. What would I say to all the writers out there struggling? I wouldn't say anything. I'd listen. All right. All right, so I was thinking that's possibly one way you could take this 3 rules kind of a theme, tell a story kind of like that. But then I was thinking last night, maybe there's another story here that I can tell. One that is, maybe if I wanted to purposely go the opposite direction of 3 rules, you could say, I'm gonna twist the words as much as I can to tell a different kind of story, and that's my edge. And I'm gonna tell a story of 3 generations of kings, 3 different rules, and how times change, how the lessons that they learned from their fathers help or break their ability to rule. That's 3 rules. Then I was like, I don't know personally if I want to tell that kind of story. So then I kept thinking, not writing from your theory, you're not listening to your mind. That's a good quote. I like that one. Started thinking more, okay, what are some rules that I could have in my story? And not specifically like, I'm gonna just flat out say the rules and then tell the story. Sometimes, you know, a little subtext is nice. I've been playing a game recently called Deep Rock Galactic. Deep Rock Galactic. Oh, our on-screen chat is dead. Sad. I promise people in the watching this clip in the future, I promise people are talking. People are talking, I promise. Let's see if we can. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Good lordy. Hey, I'm not saying don't tell that story. I'm saying I didn't want to write that story. I didn't want to write it because I know you could do it better. I should be a politician. All right, let's fix some stream stuff. Bear with me. I called you up, it was just to say. All right. Let's get chat not being clipped off. Lordy, these are some long messages. I gotta make this thing smaller. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, son. All right. But hey, Diori Mori, I'm telling you, great minds think alike. I was thinking that same sort of like, okay, this could be an interesting story to tell, and this is my jumping off point. You can tell that story. I'm not going to. So I've been playing this game called Deep Rock Galactic, which is about like science fiction dwarves going down into the mines and harvesting minerals and doing all these different things. And so then I was like, you know what? Maybe there's like a lighthearted, character-driven story here about someone who is in charge of this group of dwarves mining in the caves below. Even if I take the same setting, like science fiction, and saying, you know, I'm like a leader that's laid back. There's no rules here. And then every time someone does something really stupid and causes like a mine shaft to collapse or someone gets hurt, he's like, okay, you know what? There is one rule. I didn't think I'd have to say this. Here's one rule. Here's one rule to follow. And then something else happens. Then now there's suddenly, okay, you know what? There are actually 2 rules. The first rule is there were no rules. We're changing that. The second rule is now you have to don't do this very obvious stupid thing. And then it happens again. That's how you get your 3 words. They're not called dwarves. They're called a Welshman. Uh-oh. Oh, some messages I shouldn't read on chat. We got some Deep Rock Galactic Lovers. I'm bad at the game. I just downloaded it. It's been out for like 12 years and I just downloaded it. Get with the times, Carson. So I thought that would be kind of a fun, lighthearted story. And I was thinking, okay, you know what? Maybe that's the case. Maybe I should tell that kind of story. But then that was kind of like my last short story. My last short story was a lighthearted story. You can find it on writingtheory.com/stories. All the short stories I will write for writing challenges are posted there. The last challenge, the theme was running out of space. And so I wrote kind of a fun story about hell being full up of people, and also it's now Hell Co, and it's basically corporate culture up here. Down in hell, there's all the different departments and CEO speak. And we had one last guy who popped up down there who then we needed to find a place for him to work, a department. And so we saw different departments of Hell Co. And then I wrote that story, and that was kind of a lighthearted kind of same thing. And I was like, I don't want to tell the same kind of short story. Creeperboy says, are you only catering to novel writers? Give me more information. Tell me what you mean, and I'll give you my answer. Okay, so now I'm thinking, all right, short story, 3 rules. What am I going to tell? What's the story I want to? And so now I'm kind of in this limbo period, and I'm going to bring you along for the ride as I figure out exactly what story I'm telling, what I'm going to write. So I have NovelPad open. If you are working in the, if you go to our Discord and you want to partake in our writing challenge, and you can go to announcements and you can enroll in the writing challenge, and then you can finally see the link to invite to NovelPad. And that's how you can come join us. You get free access to NovelPad when you're doing a writing challenge, a brand new feature that we're testing out. It was made for writing theory. And by that, I mean, it was made with me working with the NovelPad team to be like, this could be a really cool thing that we could do together. And they're like, oh yeah, we have all these great ideas. And then I'm like, here's what we would need. And they're like, I got you. And they just started working on it and created this really awesome sort of platform. Give some love to NovelPad. It's really cool that they did that. So when you're doing a writing challenge with writing theory, you get access to NovelPad for free. No credit card required, no free trial. As long as you are enrolled in a writing challenge, you have free access to that tool to work and submit in that writing challenge. That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So in NovelPad, what I'm going to do here is I want to do some brainstorming, and all throughout the left side, this isn't really like a tutorial, but this is my technical writing brain coming through. Thyra Mori says, no lie, I beat the theme. I went from having the rules said to other characters having their rules be their philosophy, and they pick which one works from the end, and then the big 5,000 words. I find it harder to keep my story under 5,000 words as someone who writes more. I know that we had there's a lot of people in the chat. If you hop over into Discord, you'll actually see people are talking about their progress and the challenges that they're facing, which is why it's so valuable, because you get to talk to other writers going through the exact same things that you're going through, who are trying to hit that 2,000 word thing. Sounds like you got something pretty solid locked in. Justin says, do we have to use NovelPad? Well, this is a really cool feature I'm trying to bring to you guys to try something out. If anything, take the idea of this writing challenge as try something new. Give NovelPad a try. To submit in this writing challenge, this isn't going to be for every writing challenge ever, but for this writing challenge in particular, you have to submit through NovelPad. If you absolutely cannot bring yourself to try writing in this new kind of tool, you can write somewhere else and copy and paste it in here, but it is submitted through NovelPad. So there's my answer. 5,000 word limit is killing me, but it's good for me to try it. There's a phrase that's like, what's the phrase? Constraints breed creativity, something like that. Choose which words are really important. Put those in the story. Cut out everything else. I wanted to join November, but I was scared I'd be broke. You're like the Scrooge on Christmas Day. I don't know if I'm I'm glad you specified Scrooge on Christmas Day as opposed to just being Scrooge. Take the wins when you can get them. Thank you. Can you use NovelPad for more than the challenge? You can. When you first sign up for NovelPad, you do get like free trial where you can use it for, I think, 14 days, 7 days, 14 days, full features and everything. Regardless of that free trial, during the writing challenge, you can use NovelPad fully featured. Nothing's like behind closed doors. And even after you finish writing in your writing challenge, if you wanted to continue working on that story, you can make a copy of it and keep working on it in NovelPad if you have that access, like if you're still in that free trial. Writing within a writing challenge is free. And at least currently, the philosophy is anytime a writing challenge is going on, if you have enrolled in the writing challenge and you're writing something to submit to that writing challenge, you will never have to pay a dime for that submission. And you get all the features for that submission. But also play around with it. Play around with it. Feel free. Explore. This may be one of the tools. This may be the thing that you've been looking for that really unlocks things in your brain. I'll kind of show you how I'm going to use it. I'm no NovelPad expert, but I have seen a bunch of the different features and I know sort of what's going to be important to me. I'm glad they don't hit you with the R story now and gatekeep your work. No. Here's the cool thing. NovelPad is a very small company. Very small company. And it is a tool created by this very small development team who really like writing. And at least from the vibes I get, and vibes say a lot. From the vibes that I get, they just really like working on NovelPad and helping writers tell the story that they want to write. So if there's any sort of support you want to give to a team, this is a great team to give your support to. No lie, this is way more user-friendly than Wattpad. You know, I've been wanting to check out more Wattpad stuff. But yeah, the NovelPad interface really nice. All right, so I'm gonna do some brainstorming here. Right, so this is not a tutorial for NovelPad, but I will sort of talk about some of the important things that I like about it that are going to be important to how I use it, right? The first thing is, so like how it works is you write scenes, you organize them into chapters, and then everything is presented on your manuscripts where you can read your whole story. You can edit things here, but if you want to hyper focus on a specific scene or a specific chapter, you can break it down into smaller bits. And then there's lots of things for just keeping track of your story, right? So we have characters down here. Every time you add a character, you can have a name, you can have a little image, a profile picture. You can type in whatever details that you want. But the cool thing is after you add a character, let's say I'm going to add Carson as a character. We have this cool little thing. You'll have all your characters in this grid here. You can open up this. So we're going to talk about notes here in a second. We'll get there. We can write some information about Carson, view that information. We can go in here, edit the character bio. We can edit the picture. You keep track of all your stuff. Same thing with locations. The cool thing is, if I go down here into notes, notes is what I'm going to be using a lot today for planning. When it comes to notes, this is kind of like, the ceiling is very high, depending on how you want to use it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to start with just a overall brainstorm. This is going to be like my brain dump for the synopsis of my story. This is going to be where I explore ideas and maybe how I want to break down the 3 rules theme. All right, so let's go in here. Let's add a new note. This is going to be our brainstorm. And I'm going to put this in a folder. We're going to call this meta story. Right, these are the details of the story. So our theme is 3 rules. Can you read that? Looks like you can read that pretty well. Let's go into ideas. So we talked about we could have 3 generations of rulers as a possible subversion of the 3 rules theme if we are purposely trying to sort of flip the words around, tell a different kind of story. I think there is possibly something in like the 3 wishes lost because of rules broken. Story of someone who's gained a lot of things, but they've been given rules and they are slowly breaking those rules and losing the things that they've gained. A kind of traditional story trajectory of one person gains a lot and then loses a lot. Sarcastic Queen says, what program are you typing in? This is NovelPad. This is a web hosted. You can go to novelpad.co to view it all here. I'm going to give the spiel really quick. We're currently in our Discord, which you can find the link below. We are in the midst of a writing challenge, which you can go to our Discord, the announcements channel, and join right now. And join 30, 40 other writers who are in the writing challenge, and you get free access to NovelPad for this writing challenge. Go play around with it. It's totally worth it. That's the quick spiel. All right. 3 wishes lost because of rules broken. I don't know if I want to tell that serious of a story. I'm not really there is who's the author? What's that dude's name? One of these great American authors, I can't remember who it was. Has this see you later, Justin. Has this idea that there are all these shapes of stories and you can sort of map out the trajectory of your character over the duration of the story as positive and negative things happen. 40 was 29 on Sunday. When did the whole army? It's slowly been creeping up. It's not quite at 40. Maybe by the end of this stream, it'll be at 40. It's like at 36, something like that. But this author has this idea of like you can map out the shape of a story, and whether it's someone who gains a lot and loses a lot, or someone who loses and then gains, there's like all these ways you can map up the story. I'm not really a big lover of telling the story of someone who gains something and then loses something and is back where they started. Not my love for story. Like, I don't know. I like happier endings. Other rules. What are some other ways we can tell this story? Well, we have the idea of someone purposely. Oh, I wanted the no rules to rules. Those who joined a little bit late, I had this idea for a story. I've been playing this game called Deep Rock Galactic, and it has a really fun vibe. It's dwarves who are science fiction exploring these caves on these alien planets, and it's got a really funny sort of atmosphere to it. I was thinking I could tell some kind of story of some leader who was like, there's no rules here. The only number one rule, no rules. And then the people that they're leading continuously do really stupid things. So he's got to be like, okay, there's rule number 1, there's no rules. Rule number 2, don't do this very obviously stupid. And then we'd have a lot of character interaction that could be a lot of fun as we slowly create the rules to make our 3 rules kind of story. What other kinds of story would I want to tell? It's Welshman, you mean? I've been trying to hunt down. So for anyone who doesn't know, in fantasy, every dwarf that's basically ever been presented in fantasy up until Game of Thrones. Well, that was actually probably a bad comparison because that's actually the condition as opposed to the fantastical creature. Strike that one. Dwarves in like the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit, and a lot of fantasy. For whatever reason, I can't remember where. I've been trying to hunt down where it started. They always have very thick like Scottish or Welsh accents. If you know where that originated, let me know. I would love to know. I love learning about things like that. I feel like I had some interesting idea last night, but I've lost it. I guess there's another question is, what's the genre of our story? That's an important fact here. I don't think I want to write fantasy. I did kind of a fantastical look at something last thing, so I'm going to strike out fantasy. Could write science fiction. As someone who is a lover of genre fiction, I could write science fiction. There's also something to be said for the atmosphere of some big horror novel. I think a lot of my ideas for story come down to, here is a leader who has rules for, you know, if you ever saw hey, paint games, I don't know anything. Hey, welcome to the party. Third time's a charm. How to write character development. Chop off a limb. Oof. Nothing forces you to face reality like losing a limb. There is something to be said for some kind of horror story. That could be a lot of fun. I don't often write horror, but it could be short story vibes. Pretty big. Would a comic be accepted in the contest? Not this one. Not this one. But I will keep multimedia in mind for the future. It's more about how do I make sure that different media can be, you know, I know that most of the people that we have in our Discord are writers, but I've seen there are so many talented artists in our Discord. So many. So the question is there enough to justify having multiple categories of writing challenge stuff? I'll keep that in mind. Oh, here we have someone saying, I'm going to take a guess, took inspiration from Vikings, because they have that, you know, you're right. They do have like that Viking helmet aesthetic in a lot of media as well. Good point. I can see that. Hey, there are two sides to Carson. One who wants to tell a happy, cozy story, and one who wants to destroy you with horror and serial killers and monsters. Most of the time I want to tell a happy story. It's possible to create distinctive and flexible products by combining the inspired ideas of comic books for iconic. Is it possible? Oh, I thought you were telling me something. All right. It says, is it possible to create distinctive and flexible products by combining the inspired ideas of comic books for iconic character concepts? I think the best term for what you're talking about there is archetypes, because comic books are very much archetype driven, especially if you look at superheroes, even though I know comic books are more than just superhero stories, but archetypes are how I come up with my characters, right? Archetypes are going to be like I'm going to write a character who is the kind of character that's seeking justice, or the morally gray rogue, if you're going to look at fantasy, or I'm going to look at the paragon of good, like Superman, right? That's an archetype of character. You can get inspiration for your characters anywhere. Archetypes are the terms for sort of these agreed upon ideas of characters that are reused in different kinds of media. So Creeper Boy, Creeper Boy Squared, check out archetypes. You can even look up huge lists of archetype characters, and that is a great place to start for writing your characters. Monsters end up being friendly with subvert expectations. That could be kind of fun. Oh, like a Monsters Inc. What if they had rules they had to follow? Why would, I guess anytime you are writing like anytime you're trying to write a story, what am I trying to say? I guess I'm going into writing this story. Here's the big question. Sort of something that's going to drive a lot of my story is, why would you break the rule? It's kind of, I'm going into the story with this idea. Why would you break the rules? Whatever story we tell, let's say we have someone who's had their wishes granted, but every time they break one of the rules that they're very aware of, they lose this wish, this thing that they've gained. Why would they then break the rules? Is it because our character is intrinsically good? Intrinsically bad? There has to be a reason why rules are broken, if they're being broken, right? You could also tell a story that's, why would you make a rule? This idea of rules, no rules, two rules. Why would you then create a rule? What's the purpose? Interesting. Ted's here. Hello, Ted. Welcome to the party. Don't want to write fantasy, science fiction, horror. I've always thought that sort of romance, slice of life romance is really underutilized in telling short stories. Our out of space theme that we had last writing challenge, I was thinking the whole time, a great story to tell with the theme of out of space would be a couple who's moving out of their house into a new place, and they've run out of space in their moving van, and they're looking at the last few items that they just couldn't quite fit into the moving van. They can only pick one more, and they're sort of reminiscing over the memories of each one of these things and having to decide which one to bring with them. I thought that could be a pretty nice story. Ted, we've talked about this earlier before you joined. I was also like, if I wanted to subvert the 3 rules, here's how I'm gonna do it. I went with 3 rules badly implemented. Hey, that sounds like a fun story. I think that's underutilized. I gotta say, one of the first things I think of thinking about like this 3 rules is almost like if you've ever seen Zombieland, the movie Zombieland, where they have all of these rules that our main character has made that they followed in order to survive. First off, love it, right? That's such a fun way to present it in a movie. I thought that could be kind of fun too. That could be a fun story to tell. Here's the thing, if you're ever writing a zombie story, if you're ever writing any sort of this like very specific niche genre fiction, remember that the zombie kind of idea, and you can extrapolate this out to apocalypse, you can extrapolate this out to other themes as well. This is the framing of your story. Your story is not about zombies in this instance. Your story is about your characters, and they just happen to be framed by this idea of zombie. The zombies can push forward conflict, but the conflict is still about your characters surviving. Ted says, can you elaborate a bit on what slice of life? Slice of life is basically focusing on the mundane, right? Starlight Farm's Kennel for Talking Dogs, my debut book, link in the description, is slice of life, right? That is, we're looking at someone who is on their farm, they're doing some chores, they slice of life and cozy fantasy, a very popular combination. Legends and Lattes tells a story of someone who's opening up a coffee shop. So a lot of the things that they need to resolve in that story is simply like, I need to figure out how to get the equipment here. I need to figure out, do I want to have a bakery? I need to find someone to do the bakery. That's slice of life, focusing on the mundane. Focusing on the mundane. Maury says, I'd like slice of life. I'd say slice of life is everyday life we experience that seems special and heightened because it's from our point of view. Slice of life is an interesting genre, especially because it is extremely relatable. When you're talking slice of life, you're talking like, so like we're right here. When you're talking slice of life, you're talking like, hey, everyone's gone through this. Everyone experiences this. Slice of life is mundanity, and life is mundane. Usually books cut that kind of stuff out. Slice of life subverts that and focuses and tells the story on the mundane. And romance slice of life also tends to be a pretty popular combination of those genres. Other genres that interest me for writing. Now, you'll see that I had like 3 little brainstorms, 3 types of stories up here. We had our big question, why would you break the rules? Why would you make a rule? I don't always start my stories this way. This is just my thought process right now. Steel Magnolias could be seen as slice of life. Definitely. A lot of what you would call sort of like Americana storytelling, especially if you get back into like the Beat generation and you're talking about like East of Eden has a lot of kind of like slice of life. What other stories would? A lot of those traditional American fiction kind of stories have a little bit more of slice of life than you would see in genre fiction. Genre fiction is going to be your fantasy, your science fiction, your mystery, your thrillers, which is what I like to write. And that's a lot of times just focusing on the adventure. Which brings another point. You know, there's that scene in Indiana Jones, the third Indiana Jones, with Sean Connery, Harrison Ford. He's got his little book, and that his dad's research for decades on how to find the Holy Grail. And Harrison Ford's kind of just like, you know, here's this challenge that I'm facing. I'm going to crack open the book, and my father's written this thing, and that's going to get me through the challenge. Kind of like maybe there's some rules there. As someone who is a sucker for Indiana Jones and that kind of storytelling, that could be really fun to explore here. Adventure storytelling. What else do we got here? Fantasy, science fiction, horror, romance, slice of life. Of this so far, I think I'm feeling right now, at this point in time, this will change every time you ask me this question. Right now, I think I'm feeling of writing this kind of story. Let's highlight this. Green gonna work here? I don't think I like green. Don't like that color. Psychological thriller. I don't think I'm, at least right now, feeling like writing a psychological thriller. I've been wanting to read. I read this writing book called The Story Grid. Seen my video on it, maybe. And the author of Story Grid, Sean Coyne, talks so much about what kind of like they consider the perfect book to be, which is Silence of the Lambs. Don't eat Taco Bell, be prepared, and oh god. Carry napkins with you. Bring a towel, right? Sean Coyne claims that like the greatest book, the greatest like genre fiction, pulp kind of book is not Hannibal Lecter, Silence of the Lambs. And I think I want to read that soon. And maybe after I read that, I'll want to do a psychological thriller. The thing is, I don't read much psychological thriller stories. I read Gone Girl last year, or I listened to the audiobook, and that was probably the most recent psychological thriller kind of story. Because I don't know so much about the genre, I don't know if I'm prepared to write it. I do like to be pretty familiar with the genre I'm about to write. Maury says, your romance video really helped me use romance as a story progression rather than some second plot. Oh, I love that. That's what I'm trying to do in my next upcoming stories, really focus on giving the characters the journey towards some sort of romance subplot. And I thought Romancing the Beat as a writing book, awesome. I went in seeing just like the reviews on Amazon. It's probably got the second most reviews out of any writing book I've ever seen, and they are glowing. So I went in there thinking, okay, well, this is really popular, but there's lots of romance writers. Maybe that's why it's popular. But then I opened it up and I was like, dang, this book is straight to the point, no fluff, just about like almost under 100 pages and right to the point, and I could not find a single fault with it. It was killer. If you don't know how to write romance like me, and you need a little bit of guidance if you want to include like a romantic subplot in your story, which is almost always a good idea, I'll be honest. It's popular for a reason. You don't have to do it, but it's popular for a reason. Romancing the Beat, the writing book, awesome. Check out my video on it. So 3 wishes being lost because of rules broken. This kind of idea. This reminds me of The Monkey's Paw, which is also a short story, right? A finger curls on the monkey's paw. If you've ever heard that phrase. If you don't know that story, I think it was written in the mid 1900s. It's the sort of wish fulfillment story, but it's also that idea that like every wish that's fulfilled goes wrong. Man, I had an idea last night when I was laying in bed, but I can't seem to find it. I know I could tell this story of No Rules to Rules in a pretty good way. Down bad anonymous. That's funny. Whoa! I like down bad anonymous. That's funny. That's so good. All right. I'm thinking for my short story, since the last one that I wrote was very lighthearted, very cozy fantasy, I think I'm gonna go horror this time around. We'd say red was good. I think I'm gonna combine some of these ideas. I think I'm gonna combine all three of these. 1900s making every story feel real ever. Those people truly believed a boy made of wood. Dude, I don't know what it was about short stories in... Okay, I have a theory. Here's my theory. It seems if you were to do your research right now, it seems like every single great short story was written between 1900 and like 1960. If you crack open one of those books that you had back in like an English class that had just like so many different short stories in there, as well as like understanding them, breaking them down, understanding the themes and why they worked and who the author was and the times that it was written, you would think that the 1950s was the golden era of telling short stories. My theory is that is not the case, but we think that's the case because those are all the short stories that have become free due to trademark laws and copyright laws. And so they can take the good stories from that era that are free to reprint in the book that you have to study. And so we all get exposed to them. You're telling me that no one's writing some, like Stephen King isn't one of the great short story writers and doesn't deserve to be, in those kind of literary textbooks, but he's not because his work is still copyrighted and you have to go buy the books with his short stories. I bet there is someone writing right now who only writes short stories, who is the king or queen leader of the craft. But you have to buy their books so it's not being printed in the books that we study. That's my theory. That's all I got. All right, I got No Rules to Rules. Horror adventure storytelling. Okay. Anthology conspiracy. You heard it here first. Hey, tell me I'm wrong. Prove to me that I'm not wrong. You can't. As long as Disney doesn't have the rights to them, it's perfect. Oh my God, I welcome our Disney overlords as they will inevitably buy YouTube at some point. Please don't get rid of me. Thank you. All right, so magazines are way more popular then. Yes. Writing theory to anthology theory. Maybe a more lucrative channel. I don't know. All right, so we're going to write a story. The genre is going to have elements of horror and adventure storytelling. We're going to choose our story, the way that we're relating to our theme. We're going to go from no rules. That's how we're relating to the theme. No rules, dystopian setting. Dystopian's really popular. I think since I'm in this adventure storytelling, which we're going to call is going to be like the Goonies, Indiana Jones, Stranger Things. We're going to be borrowing tropes from that. I don't think we're going to go dystopian, though horror and dystopian can be a lot of fun. A Netflix adaptation of Pinocchio won an award. Don't get me started on awards. As someone who's been burned time and time again by picking up a book and seeing that it's won the Pulitzer Prize and being like, ooh, this is going to be great. I'm going to love this. And then reading 800 pages and being like, nothing's happening in this book. I don't get it. Awards mean nothing. For the win means for the writer in our content. Lovecraft meets Laura Croft. I like that. That's kind of fun. Yeah, honestly, that's kind of the vibe. We're gonna call that. You know what, Ted? We're renaming this. Lovecraft meets Lara Croft. That's our genre. And then we'll put horror adventure. Ted. That's so funny. And we're gonna go no rules to rules. All right, so this is the framework of my story. I have some ideas for genre, right? Adventure, horror, and we're gonna be going, the way that we're relating to our theme is no rules to rules. Again, this is not how I approach writing every single story, but you can just see, like, you can kind of start anywhere. We don't have anything about plot, except we're going from no rules to rules. We don't have anything about characters, nothing about location, nothing about theme. We have nothing like that, all right? But now we're gonna start to put the pieces together. All right, so let's throw in a little line here. How are we going to tell this story? How are we going to tell this story? I'm going to start with back again from the void. Thank you for joining us from the void. I hope the weather is nice there. James Patterson being a bestseller. My cousin says he cooked. I see every title as somebody who thought this up in the dark while playing. Yeah, look, I've done 2 videos where I've kind of just like dunked on James Patterson, and when you are at James Patterson level, your name sells the book, not the book title. He'll have book titles that are just like Miami Heat, Miami Hotter, and of course the third one, Miami Scorch. But the title's super tiny on the book and his name's huge across the top and people buy it. No rules for the monsters. I definitely think I want monsters. Monsters sounds fun. I read a short story by Rob J. Hayes, which is this book. The short story is in his world of the God Eater saga. If you haven't checked out the God Eater saga, first off, I was lucky enough to be able to do a video with Rob J. Hayes for this channel. It's called How to Plan a Series. It's one of my better videos, in my opinion. I was really nervous making that because it was the first time I was making a video where it felt like someone else was invested in the video's quality, and I thought I was doing it poorly, and it ended up coming out really nice. So that's a really good one. But he did a short story before his God Eater saga books came out, and it was about these people exploring these ruins beneath a city looking for treasure, and sort of like their character interactions as they went down into this pit, building this atmosphere. They found the treasure and it like unlocked a curse, and then they had to escape from these like severed hands that were coming out of the ground trying to grab them, just hands all over. And it was a really fun read. It had betrayal and everything. It was a little bit longer than 5,000 words. It was probably closer to like 12,000. But I like the vibe of it. So 5,000 words is kind of hard to build up atmosphere from nothing. So we're going to use a trick here. When you're writing in horror, especially for a short story, we don't need to start at the very beginning of the journey. Okay? We don't need to start at the very beginning of the journey. We're going to start midway. We're going to start like after our heroes have already been involved in this adventure and are like halfway through exploring this place that they need to explore on. Especially because we got to fit a lot in 5,000. Anyone who is doing this, anyone who is writing in this writing challenge, remember character work. Character work is key. Character work is key. The number one biggest sort of way stories lost points in our last writing challenge was that there was little to no dialogue, which meant that everything we knew about our character just came from their actions, from the narration of the story just being like, this character then did this thing. And that just like doesn't make you relate to the character as much as seeing the way that they treat other people, seeing how people react to them, seeing their thought process behind their words, the subtext of what they're saying. Character work's important. We're definitely going to be focusing on character work here. So our focus for the story is atmosphere, character, and then because we're in horror and adventure, I'm kind of thinking we want to have some sort of big twist, right? Maury says, do you mind if I call you Maury? Maury Thiori? I don't know if I'm pronouncing the first one right. Says, I saw a video saying stop selling the world, sell the character, and the world will follow suit. I agree with that. I can agree with that. I especially think the idea of you as an author get really excited about your world. The reader doesn't often get excited about the world. They're excited about how your character interacts with the world. And I think that's kind of what you're saying here means, right? Sell the character and the world will follow suit. Especially like you do on my video, stop planning, start writing, right? Escaping planning hell. You can plan your world forever, but like all of that information that you're planning inspires you to write, but your reader doesn't need to know all that. And a lot of writers plan their world and then are like, I can't wait to show this to readers. Here's how the post works in my story, in case you needed to know. And the reader's like, what the heck's going on? Don't care about that. All right. Dialogue is the gateway to the character's inner thoughts. Definitely. It's a better way to present character stuff than saying, here's what they think. Silent speech, like in Space Marines. Big C is silent speech. Let me know. I don't really know what that means. Westerns are good, but what makes your character sell this? Hero as a monster hunter? That could be a lot of fun. Anytime you ask a question, what about me telling this kind of story? What about a character like this? It's always got potential. It's up to you to act on the potential. Nice. There's no main character. The world is the main character. I don't know if I agree with that one. Paint games, anything, I don't know. Paint games, I don't know anything. I don't know if I agree with the world being the main character. I think that's, especially with what I think in what you wrote when you shared on the Discord, that was kind of your philosophy with your story, which was, here's the big war, here's the planet that we're going to crash on, here's this universe that I created. And that very much does feel like the main character. But if you remember, the feedback I most gave you was like, show us that world through a character, because anytime we're experiencing the story, we need to have a lens to view it through. And that is 100% of the time going to be a character. Now you maybe I should say 99%. You may say, I really like this story and this character doesn't even have a name, like The Road by Cormac McCarthy. We're not Cormac McCarthy. We're just people. I'm just Carson Long. I'm not Cormac. I haven't won a Pulitzer Prize. Okay, no lie. I feel Hogwarts Legacy doesn't hit because people fell for the characters, not the world. You might be onto something there. Oh my gosh. Maury says, Doro. The manga anime has 12 to 14 characters, and the city they live in hosts all the plot, like Yakuza, Final Spaceship. Yeah, I mean, so manga and anime have their own tropes. I want to do a video on that in the future. There are very specific tropes in manga and anime. Things like character archetypes, and also having a cast of characters that aren't replicated in every other sort of genre. But it would be interesting to do a deep dive and a study on them and see how we can bring that to the novel world. If you're looking for books who are like anime, Rob J. Hayes, shout outs, has a series called Titan Hoppers that has huge anime vibes. It's like Star Wars meets Hunter x Hunter, maybe. Star Wars, it's a progression fantasy. Check it out. I have to confess, I haven't been working that much. I've been pretty tired. College is hitting hard. It happens, man. It happens. Life is always going to get in the way of writing. It's going to come and go in waves. It happens. Happens to everyone. All right, I'm going to focus on this. Let's make some progress here. Atmosphere, character, twist. Let's throw some inspirations down. Goonies, Indiana Jones. I think I'm gonna go more the route of these two things as opposed to Stranger Things. What do I want in this story? From my inspirations, actually, let's do this a little bit better. From my inspirations here, here's what I want to include. I want to include being in ruins or some sort of like cave, some sort of like mystical, decrepit place. I'm a sucker for those kind of things. Decrepit place. I want to have a small cast of characters, not like Stranger Things. I want to have archetypes. I want to have, I was going to write booby traps. And then I felt, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't write that down on stream. Not going to write that. Traps. And treasure. These are all things I want to have present in my story because they're things I like from my inspiration. Awesome prayers is my only day off. I've written on the bus and late nights, just push and life will do the rest. Also, give yourself the ability to be busy. The best advice I can give for anyone about maybe feeling a little demoralized about writing, whether it's the time of writing or your inspiration waning or whatever the case may be, is that writing is a marathon, not a sprint. Even though I'm trying to make you do a little sprinting for the short story challenge. Even though I'm trying to make you do a sprint here, when you're writing your own projects, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. And that means maybe you need to take a break and come back. But the important thing is that you come back. One of the coolest things about writing is that it's one of those hobbies that you're going to do for the rest of your life. Push through, make something, share it with the world, even if it's not perfect. Don't hold yourself to the standard of I need to write the perfect story. If that was the case, no one would ever publish anything. No one would ever share anything. Share your work with the flaws. Come back to writing when you can. When time allows, do it. If you can make time for it, even better. But the sooner you prove to yourself that writing is going to be a lasting thing in your life, the sooner you realize you're going to be writing for as long as you're able to. And those are the hobbies and the creative outlets that you want. I play guitar. Play guitar for the past, I don't know, decade, 12 years, maybe 13 years. I love it. It's a hobby that I think I'll be able to do for pretty much the rest of my life. As long as my fingers work. As long as my fingers work, I'll play guitar. As long as my brain works, I'll be writing and telling stories. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Even if you need to take a little break, take a breather, and then come keep running the marathon. All right. Need a new computer. Yep. It happens. All right. In order for this story to really feel like it's hitting the genre expectations I would find in an adventure story, we're gonna need some archetypes. Let's go in here. Let's make some characters. Let's change Carson. Here, character. We're gonna have our main character, who's gonna be almost like the swashbuckler stereotype, the Indiana Jones, right? The character who is good at the things that they do. Think about it like this. So I love this trope of swashbuckling, right? This is one of my favorite kind of character archetypes, kind of stories to tell. A swashbuckling story features a swashbuckling character, the Jack Sparrow. There's some graphic novels I've recently been reading called Delilah Dirk that I just bought. What makes a swashbuckling character swashbuckling is the fact that their conflict doesn't come from actions around them. Their conflict doesn't come from them not being good enough at sword play or fighting, right? A swashbuckling character is inherently great at everything that they do. but their conflict comes from navigating the world around them and mostly character stuff. Conflict of character. That's first off, we love character conflict. That's more, as long as you present it well, it's easier to invest in character conflict than it is to just be like, oh no, a trap went off. Now our character's gotta dodge out of the way. All right. Ted says, what is an archetype? An archetype is an established idea for a character. And you'll have it all over the place. Let's hold on. Let's bring up this. Let me pull up a list of archetypes. Yes, short answer, Ted. Tropes for characters. I'm just going to click on a random article that we have here. Character archetypes. Industrial scripts at the top here. That's the source. If you want to Google character archetypes or a list of character archetypes, you'll probably be able to find this industrial scripts thing. And this is just going to be a huge list of types of characters. In genre fiction, especially things that maybe are a little campy, the stories really lean into these archetypes, right? I'm sure we could find the exact archetype for an Indiana Jones. I'm sure there's an archetype for the swashbuckler or the, I don't know what they would call it, but you can scroll through here and kind of get ideas for characters. So like the straight man would be in comedy when everything is so ridiculous around them. The straight man is the character that doesn't partake in the ridiculousness, but is a reflection of like how our audience might feel in this kind of area. Think of the straight man would be like Who Framed Roger Rabbit? If you've ever seen that movie, our main character is the straight man. The world is crazy around them. They're not really partaking in that craziness. They react to the craziness in the way that we would if we were in that situation. Sherlock Holmes is absolutely is absolutely an archetype, right? Someone who you can't trick them, right? Someone who you can't, they're so observant, they're the smartest person in the room always. Scrooge is an archetype, right? These are all sort of established ideas of characters. Reluctant hero might be that kind of Indiana Jones. He's not really reluctant. Robin Hood would be an example of the swashbuckling kind of thing. I'll never forget the Chad Carson was when he described our characters in death and hit us with, what's next? Shoe size? No length? Where do we draw the line? Nailed him. Got him. I see you. I see this camera. I'm looking in the camera, but I see you. Not the hospital room. You. Seems like some archetypes could be harder to write than others. I think that depends on your understanding of them and your experience with them. Like, for example, I don't tell many rags to riches stories. But maybe someone who has life experience that better relates to that kind of plot and that kind of character going through that journey would be more excited to tell that kind of story. It definitely can be. You don't have to use these kind of archetypes. These are just ways to get ideas flowing, right? Harrison Ford, definitely an archetype. Again, almost in that swashbuckling category. I love those kinds of characters, which is why I'm going to use them. So we're going to have our main character pop back over here. What should our main character's name? Let's here. Let's add. Right now, we'll just call him MC. Let's make our main character female. Always like that. More fun. We're gonna say that they have a background. We're gonna refine these details later. We're just getting kind of an image, a rough image, the silhouette of our story down. Hey, there you go. Yeah. Swashbuckling archetype, rated action. What else do we want here? Graded action. We always want our main character to have some reason to put themselves in danger. So having them be protective of others is always a noble cause. You can just kind of put in your back pocket. Others. All right, cool. Love it. Main character. We definitely, this is what I'm excited about for this story. Find stories that get you excited. I have always wanted to tell a story that has a sidekick. We're definitely doing that here. One thing that will always give me inspiration is the Droid Army. The theme song from the Star Wars. Find music that you like to write to, for sure. When I'm writing, I listen to lo-fi game music from, a lot of times from Celeste. If you ever played Celeste, really good game. That's one of the few albums I have on Spotify downloaded so I can write anywhere. That's a short round. Exactly. I definitely want the sidekick. And then every swashbuckling character, especially in Indiana Jones, is always paired up with some kind of helpless character. In Indiana Jones, it's always also the love interest, right? The love interest is there with the journey and always needs saving. Now, in our case, we're going to switch the genders here. We're going to have our main character be female and the helpless character probably be some nerdy male scientist, historian kind of character. That'll be fun. And you can see here, though, what I'm trying to do here. Hey, ooh, look at all these different views. And wow. Whoa, neat. A dude in distress. Great way to say it. I like that. We're gonna say dude in distress. Archetype. Flip. Nice. What I listen to depends on what I'm writing. Sometimes medieval fantasy, other times some black metal. Nice. Yeah, put some Opeth on in the background. Build some atmosphere. Or some Sun O. Jumanji's Professor Shelley. Exactly. This is Jumanji is very much that same kind of adventure kind of storytelling. I love that era of a film. Big fan. Happy squirrels. Hope to see you in the Discord. Have a great day. Only English class where I'm actively asking it. There are no dumb questions. Only dumb people. Ha! Got him. All right. Mansell in distress. Ooh. Dude in distress. Mansell. I bet we could even name that character Mansell. Is that a thing? Is that a name somewhere? All right, so here's the thing. In a short story, do not fall into the trap of having too many characters. 3, especially for the genre of story that I'm telling here, 3 is a very basic, safe amount of characters to have. It's short enough that we can have very diverse characters to play different roles in the story, but it's enough that we can have different interactions and we can showcase different relationships between all 3 characters, right? So we have maybe our main character. Let's take Carson out of the story. now that I see him up here, wonder how I can do that. Sorry, Carson. Get out of here. Me with my son. Hold on, we need some iced coffee here. All right, so you can see that we're building a silhouette of this story. And sometimes you have a story that's born from inspiration, and a lot of this work's already done for you. So whenever you come to a story and you're like, man, I was inspired because I had this great idea for a plot or a very specific character moment that I know I want to now put into a story, that is your brain doing all of this kind of work behind the scenes. In our case, I didn't have a specific moment of inspiration that was driving the creation of this story, which means I'm starting from the ground. of just like building this foundation, the silhouette of what this. I like the idea of a silhouette because we're gonna fill in all the details later, but we're creating sort of like this, the basic building blocks of our story. We have our 3 characters here. We're gonna have different relations between all of them so that we can see how they interact with each other. In an adventure story, sometimes we have a specific villain or antagonist. And of course, hey, that makes sense, right? But in a short story, we don't have a lot of time to establish a villain as an effective villain. Right? Now we could do, there are some things, kind of burp there. There are some things that we can do to make our life a little bit easier. In telling this story, if we did want to have a villain, it can almost be like a MacGuffin. Has anyone here never heard of the word MacGuffin? And if you have heard of a MacGuffin, tell me what you think it is. Give me a good description here. I don't know if we're gonna have a specific antagonist. A MacGuffin. Oh, the not a MacGuffin. The villain usually is a strong foreign accent. You right. I will never turn someone away from writing a cool space story. Come on. Everyone loves a good space story. By the way, it is very possible you hear some dogs bark in the background of this stream. Prepare yourself. The thingamajig that's super important and totally central to the plot. Maury, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to get me to talk about accents and dialogue. You can't fool me. Something that needs to be acquired. All right, so a MacGuffin. There's a little bit of a delay on the stream, so bear with me. A MacGuffin is something that you as the author portray as important to your story and motivates your characters, but like the readers don't really care. The funny trope about this is like whenever you see a movie that's in like high school, like Glee, or you see a movie like High School Musical, or you see any sort of high school movie, there's, especially if there's anything about sports, you always have some kind of trope about like, oh, we're about to make it to state. We're about to go to state, but I don't want to go because I need to sing. I don't want to play basketball and go to state. I need to sing. That would be a MacGuffin. Why does the audience care if the basketball team goes to state? Why does the audience care if this happens, if the characters do or do not achieve this goal that doesn't really mean anything in the grand scheme of things? A MacGuffin motivates your characters, but not the reader. So the whole reason I bring that up is because we can almost have our villain of the story be a MacGuffin. We can almost have our villain of the story be a MacGuffin. They terrify our characters. When we interact with them, it feels to our characters like a big dramatic moment. The thing is, we haven't been able to really invest the time. Oh my gosh, it's Cora B. Cora, welcome. Oh my gosh. I always love seeing you in the chat. McMuffins. We can have our villain be a MacGuffin, but whatever we're trying to achieve in this adventure story is going to be a MacGuffin anyways. So we're gonna have to figure out how to work our way around that. What drives our characters versus how do we make it matter to the reader? Oh man. All right. If you're using NovelPad, this is a great way. I'm establishing some characters here. We can do the same thing for locations and the same thing for building out plots if we want. They have all these different options. All right, I think let's break out of this brainstorm tool here. Let's add something here. And what needs to be in my story? if I was doing this in if I was doing this kind of planning in my own story, I probably would have been able to come up with all of these things within like 3 minutes of everything that we've done for like the past hour. But in doing it out loud, hopefully it helps other people be able to plan their story. Can the 3 rules be the MacGuffin? Give it a shot. As long as it's still a good reading experience and makes for a good short story, give it a shot. All right. Here we go. So what needs to be in my story? I wonder if you'll be able to hear the dogs. Hey. All right, let me go get some dogs to stop barking. I'll be right back. We back. All right, we got 2 dogs in the room now. All right, so let's see what we got here. Making a villain, a MacGuffin. Whew. Man, some of these words, I tell you. Invaluable, seeing your thought process. I'm glad you like it, Ted. That's the whole reason. It takes me a lot longer to get work done, but I feel like it's really valuable. Really thought about making the villain a MacGuffin before, but it does or doesn't make sense. I guess your villain can be a MacGuffin in your story if the point of the story is not overcoming the villain, right? It can just be something that happens because it serves your plot and motivates your characters, but don't act like it's the big moment for your characters. That would be the issue. I've always struggled with short stories. Ideas tend to evolve into a novella. Keep it small. Keep it small. Dogs are voice acting for the audiobook. Oh my god. I have to pay them in treats. Oh no, my dog got Cora's dog barking at the monitor. Brutal. Well, they are hanging out in the room now. Okay. What needs to be in my story? Here's the deal. Let's do some brainstorming. For a horror novel, we need atmosphere. I love the fact that Indiana Jones walks this fine line between realistic and fantasy. Like, there are elements of like the occult and magic and something larger than life. I'm gonna say hint at fantasy, but grounded. Ooh, but grounded. You didn't see that. Let's see what else we got. Oh, I guess that would be, I put that in the wrong category. We'll get back to that. For horror, we want there to be danger. We need there to be a hint of uncomfortable. I'll explain. And then down here, we're gonna say adventure. I want to make sure in my story we have the charming lead, we have the helpful sidekick, we have the manzel in distress, which we've already got that stuff down. Focus on character interactions. What else do we want? Raps and challenges. You can see I'm definitely taking more from adventure than I am with horror. With horror, is supernatural element required? It is absolutely not. There's plenty of horror stories all about serial killers and real life terrible stuff. But I like to read to escape the atrocities of life. And so if I'm writing horror, it's going to have elements of maybe monsters, maybe something else. Like The Mummy. Oh, that's what I got to say. I can summarize most of what we're saying of what I want my story to be. The Mummy. If you haven't seen The Mummy, one of the greatest swashbuckling fantasy adventure, still somewhat grounded in reality, but very clearly supernatural and larger than life. The Mummy is one of my very favorite stories. Mummies 1 and 2. I haven't seen the third one. They didn't have Brendan Fraser. So, like, what's the point? What's the point? The villain was the volleyball, but also, never mind. There's a joke in there that I think is funny. All right, yeah, Fraser's back in Hollywood. Shout out. Okay. So the big thing I'm trying to plan out now is for this kind of short story adventure tale. What is going to be our opposition to the protagonists? Is it going to be nature and atmosphere? Is it going to be a monster, or is it going to be a character that has some sort of motivations? That's going to be a big determining factor of what kind of story that we tell. I prefer to keep a short story is to keep it to one event or something that could happen in a day. Do you think this is true, or can you do something bigger and keep it short? That's a good question. For a short story, it doesn't need to be limited to one day of plot action. Your characters don't need to be living out one single day. However, you can get a lot closer. Think of this as like the scope of your story. You can really zoom in and get a lot of detail of one event that takes place over one scene and really portray that in a lot of detail in under 5,000 words. Or you can tell of a much grander story, but you're sacrificing the level of detail. You're creating a larger journey, but you can't focus on any one part of that journey. So the truth is, if you want to present a larger story, a larger plot, something that takes place over a larger or longer amount of time, you sacrifice detail. And whether or not that leads to a better story or a worse story depends on your tale, right? So I don't want to say as a hard and fast rule you need to keep it. So there's other sort of advice people give for short stories is like a very popular one is start your story as late as possible and end it as soon as possible. Right? Don't try to do a bunch of world building before we get to the action of your and your characters, because you only have so many words to start with. And I do agree with that one. I don't know if I agree with everything needs to happen in one day. I do agree with that one though. Okay. So in my case, what I like to do after I've gotten some of these kind of ideas for the kind of things I want to have present in my story, I give myself free reign to just brain dump something out. And I'm going to throw in some placeholder character names. More than likely, that's going to turn into the actual character names, but I like to fool myself and say it's placeholder. Yeah, it happens to all of us, don't worry. But I think I'm going to give myself about 5 or 10 minutes to write, and I'm going to build out a structure of a story. And I might try to follow a little bit of some story beats. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to jot down, before I end up doing that writing, I'm going to jot down sort of the very loose, very abstract series of events that I want to happen. I'm going to treat these 5,000 words like a 3-act kind of story. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. It means that we have, let's create another little thing here. Plot targets. I'm just making up words. What are you going to do about it? All right. So here's what we want to happen. We're going to have Act 1. One of my biggest takeaways I've had from doing all these writing book breakdowns is, I guess, was Story Grid. Story Grid, Sean Coyne saying that every sort of act and scene has your sort of introduction, what was it? Inciting incident, crisis, climax, resolution. I think those were the words. I'm gonna try doing that in all of my acts. So we got 5,000 total words. Act 1, I believe, will be 1,250. Act 2 will be... Oh my god, what's the numbers? Maybe this is just 1,000. Act 3. All right. Is that 5,000? Yes. Basic math has not failed me yet. All right, so we have our I'm shooting for 5,000 words. If I was being smart, which I'm not, I would probably settle and say my target is 4,000 words. That way I could overwrite. But I'm feeling like writing 5,000 words. And each one of these, Act 1, 2, and 3, we're gonna write intro, crisis, intro, inciting incident, crisis, climax, resolution. These are the 5 building blocks of each act of your story. You could also treat them as the building blocks for each scene. And you could also treat them as the building blocks for, my God, whatever you want. But I find this to be a pretty good place of organizing everything. All right, so here's my 5,000 words. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna plan out some story beats. I'm gonna say that the story we're gonna write, I want to be closer to Indiana Jones than the Mummy. But I am gonna have some kind of monster, life-ending threat, something fantastical that's revealed in the story that is gonna be something like comes from the Mummy. But I'm gonna keep the story a little bit more grounded up until that point, a la Indiana Jones. That's the vibe I am going into this. If you wanna help me write this, what would really be beneficial is if you wanted to throw out, you know how the Mummy is like all about Egypt and the pyramids? What are some cool locations and or monsters and or mythological creatures that you think are cool and unique and have a theme about them that we can incorporate into the story? I'm thinking of things like skinwalkers and wendigos in America. But I'm also thinking of things like what would be some really cool, creepy monsters that we can include from other places around the world. Thing is, a lot of European mythology has already been done. I'm sure there's some really crazy... Here, hold on. There's some... Let me pull up something here. You might like this. See if I can find it again. What was that? One of the other stories I've been working on. Open up Scrivener and pull. Native American spirit tales. Definitely, I love that. I love the vibe of the Wendigos. Excuse me. I'm gonna show you this image, and this might be maybe one way that we go about things. Most European stuff is fairies and other nonsense rather than cool stuff like the Jersey Devil. More stuff from America. There's a story I've been planning for a long time, and it's a fantasy. This is one of the bigger stories I want to tell. It's a fantasy retelling of the discoveries of America, right? The discoveries of the New World. Inspired after I read this nonfiction book called not 1940, called 1491. Right, the year before Columbus discovered Americas, and about what life was like before that and how it changed and the misconceptions. How do you have 10,000 subscribers but only 10 people watching? Because it's 11 a.m. where I'm at and people have jobs. But also, not everyone watches live streams, so it happens. It happens. There is an image I took for one of these creatures. I'm going to show you guys. See if I can find it. Not that thing. Where did I save this? Spirit Ambassador. All right. I cannot remember what the right, Maury. So if you are not Maury, if you're not part of the Discord, I posted yesterday saying specifically my viewers who are over in Australia, the Philippines, Indonesia, Europe, Asia, Sweden, Norway. I know you're in this Discord. I know you watch my stuff. I see it. See it in the Discord. I see it in the YouTube comments. You may not have been able to make some of my other live streams, and I would love to have you around. So I tried to plan one that was much earlier. For me, still kind of late for you, but mermaids, but make them men eaters too. Lots of devils around here, which I expect some kind of fairy tale monsters. Yeah. There's a lot of interesting ideas there. 59. I like your name. 59. Oh, that's so funny. Okay. So here, I'm going to show my screen here. This is going to be a little creepy, but bear with me. Bear with me. All right. In planning this story, I needed some sort of creature, some sort of thing that was sort of like the ambassador between humans and the spirit world and the story that I was going to tell. And I found out in, I think it was Japanese mythology, there was something already akin to this. And I can't remember if that was the case or if I just stumbled across this image and I thought it was something very cool about this. All right. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. I cannot remember for the life of me where I found this thing. But the imagery for this kind of like creature, monster, spirit thing is so haunting. This may be one of the kind of vibes I want to use in this adventure short story. I'm having the idea of this moment. Okay, there's like a cinematic moment happening in my brain right now. So I really operate off of images, off of visualizing things and being able to now be able to picture scenes that have this sort of thing is why I cast all of my characters, right? Bro got the fit on. Mermen take over the earth, learn to live on land. Oh yeah, there you go. That's an interesting one. Baba Yaga. There, you know what? There's an interesting idea. I like that one. So, but the thing is, whenever I have images of characters, of creatures, of monsters, of the world, it's much easier for me to figure out the plot of the story. And that sounds crazy. That sounds crazy to some people, that an image helps you tell the story because they're not truly related. But personally, when I'm planning out my story, and even when I'm writing, it's like watching a movie in my head. Is the closest sort of analogy I can figure out. And I'm just sort of transposing that onto the screen. And that's how I write. So being able to build out visual influences really helps me be able to tell my story. And I bring that up because after seeing this image, and I came to hunt this down in my Scrivener file for the story that I'm telling, is the plot. That guy could use Northodontist. I immediately see this and I have a vision of the scene, and it's influenced by The Mummy and it's influenced by Indiana Jones, and a very cinematic moment where they always have, specifically, I can remember this from Indiana Jones, of we have our characters who get to the location that they're trying to get to. Something happens that's going to unlock this monster coming out into the world. And the reveal of this thing is something that just makes your jaw drop, right? That's gonna be, this creature crawling out of the muck onto the surface of the earth now, not hidden down in the depths of hell, but now being in front of us, and how that changes everything. That cinematic moment of seeing this creature arrive and the fear that it instills in you. That's a cinematic moment I would want to portray. And I can use that as sort of a critical point in my story that needs to happen that I can work around. How did we get here and where do we go from this point? Someone catch Stray Bubble up. I gotta keep rolling now that I've got some ideas. Go back into novel pad. Okay. When would this sort of event happen? Also, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna find the source of this image. First, to pay credit, but two, maybe that can inspire us for some more work we're gonna do. The way we're gonna do that is I'm gonna take a screenshot of this image and throw it in Google search and see what comes back. Throw it in our clipboard, capture that image, hop over to images.google, paste that image in. How we do it again? Paste that in. Barong, the Protector of Bali. See what this is. All right, I'm bringing you back in. Barong, the Protector of Bali. Where did we see this? Here's our image. This is related images. That's not what we wanted. Oh my god, what the heck? Haunted Delhi. So this looks to be something of Indian origin. In Indonesia. I cannot read this. I am incapable of reading this. Dang, this thing looks creepy, dude. Holy crap. Where are we, dude? We're getting inside. Oh my god. Dude, look at this. Jeez. Oh my god. I don't know. That's crazy looking. Just to, so we can put a name to this thing. Just translating. What? All right, so Indonesia is the point of origin. We can say that. We can probably just say that. JP, super glad to hear that. Keep going. Keep going. We've also been hard at work. We've also been working really good. All right, we out. Okay, let's get to writing. So I'm gonna say our big. Oh, also, here's something else I like to do. This may help you. The middle 50% of your novel, which is always just called Act 2, is always hard. I like to break it down into 2 or 3 occasions of this sort of storytelling recursion. Now, it may be hard to fit in 3 different like climaxes to our middle 50% when the word count's so short. So in our case, I might actually turn this into 2. Okay. So this is the idea. Now I'm actually not going to start jotting down scenes here. I'm going to do a brain dump. That's going to give us a starting point for our stories, where we are. I'm going to let you guys decide for the 17 people here that I see in my thing here. I want you guys to give me some ideas for location, right? I want to know, should this be a jungle? Should this be a cave? Should this be the dunes of a desert? Should this be some religious temple? Should this be a swamp in Louisiana? Should this be, give me some ideas for location. Should this be a ocean cave or an island or a volcano? Throw some ideas in chat. We're gonna say the 4 most interesting ideas presented in chat. I'm gonna put into a poll, and you can vote on what you like best. And that's gonna be the locale for the story we write. That's the idea. El Dorado. Okay, we got some. Let's see what we got. Dorado. I've never heard of Shambhala. Volcano, Pacific Island, City of Mystery, Aztec. We'll say Aztec. Whatever location. What the? We got a brand drop in the in the chat. I'm not writing that down. Superior Plumbing. My mother works at Superior Plumbing. Exposed. Volcanic Pacific Island, El Dorado. I've never heard of Shambhala. Do some checking out. Whatever location we pick is going to be a place where I go to research. Spiritual Kingdom. That's going to influence a lot about the story. So we want a location that gives us the ability to explore. Secret tunnels. I'm going to omit the second part. Secret tunnels. Shambhala. Maury says I'd block a toilet just for you. Oh my gosh. That's, you know what? That's dedication. If you're in Atlanta and you block a toilet in the next 5 minutes, you can get 2% off of Superior Plumbing Services and a free quote. Shout out. I have the authority to make this claim. Xanadu. What's Xanadu? Sort of like a utopia. It's gonna be a tough one, but we'll throw it in there. Xanadu. All right, here's what we got. Here's what we got. We got a couple good suggestions here. I like this. I think we can sort of combine El Dorado, City of Aztec Mystery. Because I think El Dorado already has... I can't remember if it was Inca or Mayan or Aztec. Similar vibe for the purposes of our story here. Secret tunnels. We'll throw in... / caves. Okay. Here's what we got here. I've only done this once before. Let's give it a shot. Let's do a poll. Take place. Have El Dorado. Oh, geez. Oh, God. Shambhala. We're creating a poll here. Volcano, Pacific Island. Love it. I can immediately have some ideas there. Secret tunnels / caves. We'd probably go a Goonies kind of route. Oh, I can only do 4. Because I'm going to say Shambhala / Xanadu kind of go together. All right. Poll is live. Vote for what setting you want. This will be the setting for our story. Scooby-Doo. Story of real mystery haunting a Halloween party only an archaeologist can solve. That sounds like an escape room. Sounds like you just pitched to me an escape room and you had to do a brand integration with Cartoon Network. What are we looking at now? How do I see this? Volcano Pacific Island taking the lead, 43%, alongside secret tunnels and caves. We need the tiebreaker. Don't you know every Taco Bell has an escape tunnel in the bottom? It leads directly to a Long John Silver's. They're really cornering the market with Taco Bell and Long John Silver's. Volcano for the danger element. Very, very good. Very good. Love it. Oh, poor El Dorado. All right, I'm gonna give it about 15 more seconds, and I'm ending the poll, and I'm choosing. And then we got to think about how we're going to explore the setting. Where does our story start? Where is it going to go? The exploration that needs to happen. This is not going to be a main feature of the story, but it will inspire some of the kind of things that we go through in the story. It gives us the atmosphere that we can build. All right, I'm wrapping it up. I'm hitting the end poll button. It's done. It's done. We had our tie. I am going to choose. I'm going to choose Volcano Pacific Island. But of course, our volcano is going to have caves. Because, like, what's the point otherwise? You know? All right. There's our location. Starting the third. Brutal. Okay. Time period, tunnel caves, and a dead volcano on an island. There you go. These can definitely be combined. Dual feature. That's right. All right. Move. Dog. Dang dog won't let me roll my chair up here to write. All right. So here's the deal. We have our location. We have the kind of story that we're telling. And we have that picture that's inspiring our sort of moment of the big climax of the story. I think that's about all I need to do a brain dump and get our rough ideas down for what kind of story we're going to tell. We're going to lean into adventure, but we're really going to focus on the elements of horror that allow us to build an atmosphere around here, which means that in our short story, we're really going to have to focus on creating a setting that is at least interesting to be in for a short amount of time. It also means that we probably don't want to take our characters through a bunch of different locations since our word count is 5,000 words. Every new location that we enter kind of means we have to build that part of the story up again. And you could probably say that that's probably what needs to happen when you have a 3-act sort of story. Taco ding. But every time that, this is going to be one of the tough parts, is that horror is about building an atmosphere. Part of that is the location around you, but part of that is how your characters perceive that location, right? So we may not have our characters traverse through a bunch of different separate locations, but have one location that changes through the story in a way that is very visceral to the characters. That's going to be an important part of what we do here. And that would also mean that we don't need to create multiple set pieces, even though in a classic adventure story, that's the kind of thing you would do. Hotel. All right, so here's the deal. This is something that I haven't done yet. I'm really gonna see if, you know, what's the best way to do this. For those who don't know, for those who are in the chat and don't know, we are in late October, all throughout November, and maybe in December, depending on how it's going, we're going to be doing Novella November. If you have had trouble in starting a project and finishing a project, if you've gotten partway, you know, let's say you've written the first act of a story and you just didn't really know how to move on, how to keep going, how to keep pushing to finish your story, and you just need someone to be there along the ride with you throughout November, that's what we're doing. These kind of live streams, October is going to be all about the planning process and setting yourself up for success. November is going to be live streams where not only are we talking and answering questions about the story, but we're going to have what we're about to do, these sort of writing sprints. Time that I'm going to put up on the screen where we're just going to have some music playing in the background. We're going to write for 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on the kind of sprints that we're doing. Then we're going to take a break, talk about answering questions, have feedback and critique on stories, and then go back to it. Each live stream, right now, I'm considering it being about 2 hours, which will be about 20 minutes of writing, 10 minutes of chat and questions, 20 minutes of writing, 10 minutes of chat and questions. And we're going to bookend all these kind of things with more discussion about the challenges that everyone's facing and how to overcome them. How long is a novella? I would say a good target point is 40,000 words. 40,000 words is very feasible, especially if you're able to put in a good amount of time. If 40,000 words still feels very not feasible, there is no harm in dropping it down to 20, 25,000 words. You can still tell a very satisfying story in that kind of word count. That's what we're going to target in November, depending on the bandwidth that you have, depending on the amount of time you can contribute, the amount of pace or the words you write. We're going to set goals based on those values. My goal is to just guide you through that process so you don't hit those points where you're just stumbling and don't know what to do next. So we're going to try that right now. I'm going to set this up for a brain dump. We're going to put a timer on the screen. We're going to go some chill music in the background, and I'm going to write for a little bit. If you are working on your own short story, or if you're participating in a short story writing challenge, you should do some writing too. Maury says, do you know how long I've been waiting for this? I'm about to make a name for myself here. Oh, I love that. I love that. Okay, here we go. I am going to open up a new thing here called our plot dump, brain dump. And I also, see if I can find it. I remember how to do this. We make a text element on the screen. I got to do some OBS stuff here. Bear with me. I'm going to call this clock. Okay. Hit OK. Then we're going to go into I got to remember how to set this dang thing up. Here we go. Countdown timer. Clock. And full screen. Can we get this? Hey. All right. We working. Stray Bubble says, I got 20 minutes before I got to go. Time for a mini writing session. Do it. That's what we're going to try to do. Give it a shot. So let's say we definitely don't need hours. I don't know what kind of content you're here for, but I'm not writing for 6 hours on stream. Why is this not working? Here we go. There it is. Hey, we got a timer. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Let's make our lives a little bit easier. Let's add another color source. This is all the behind the scenes stuff that you don't have to put up with when you watch recorded YouTube videos. But on a live stream, a little bit different. Clock background. Someone might have just got blasted with color. Sorry. Oh, that's funny. Okay, we're gonna put this behind our clock. We're gonna group these bad boys together. This is what it takes. This is what it takes to be a streamer nowadays. I know. I know. You're telling me. Look at that. Look at that. All right. So here's the deal. I'm going to share my screen for this. You can see what I'm typing if you are interested. But I'm going to set a 10-minute timer. I'm going to turn some of the music a little bit up. I'm going to turn my microphone off. If you are writing, this is your chance to get 10 minutes of focus time. If you are not writing and you get bored over 10 minutes, we'd love to have you back. But we're going to test this out. So I'm going to do a little brain dump of a plot. You're going to see me create a lot of content, a lot of words on the screen. You're going to see me delete a lot of it. We'll see what happens. Here we go. Welcome, Steven. We're right in the middle of a writing session. Welcome to the party. All right, we back. We back. I think the background music is good at that level. All right. So I saw we had some people join us in chat. Let me tell you a little bit about my planning that I was able to do, whether it was good or bad or anything in between. Hold on. Trying to see the chat. There we go. Hold on. Getting the chat all set up. Here we go. All right. So I saw we had a couple people pop in. So Steven popped in and said, hey, first time on the channel. Steven, welcome here. Maybe it's Stefan. Stefan, welcome here. I have a question. Okay, here. If you have a question, wait until the timer. Prairie Girl, thanks for helping out. Appreciate ya. How do I get back into writing? Steven, if you are still around, let me know and we will answer that question. Don't know how to put the words on the page. That's definitely, that would keep you from writing. That would do it. Brain cooking so hard, needs to cool off with head pats. Hey, I'm working here. 59. Don't overthink it. Pen, notepad, quiet spot. Do it at peace. Also write for yourself before you consider putting it out there. All good points. Steven, let me know if you're still in the chat here. So let's talk about what brain dumps I was able to accomplish here. Okay. So this was hard to get the ball rolling. I was thinking, okay, what? And this is all brain dump here, so I'm not committing to anything. But I need to figure out, okay, I have these archetypes of characters, right? And I'm going to at least get a rough idea of the role that they need to play in the story. Of course, our main character, our swashbuckler, our Indiana Jones, our dude from the Mummy, Bannon. I feel like he was something Bannon. Their role in the story is always to be the action taker, the one who resolves conflicts. That's what they do. And then every now and then you have the side character that saves the day. And once in the story, at least once in the story, you have this damsel in distress, or our manzel in distress as we have here, who is going to play a role in some sort of resolution. So that's going to happen in the story. In the case from the brain dump here, I know you can't see everything. Let's see if we can fix that. In the brain dump here, let's see what happens if I switch over here. Perfect. Also, let's hide our timer. Nice. In the brain dump here, the very first thing I need to sort of figure out is what kind of scene are we coming into? And when in doubt, a tool that you always have in your back pocket is going to be your action prologue, basically, starting with action. In the case for an adventure story, that makes a lot of sense here. So we have our opening scene for the story, at least in the brain dump, is going to be the classic adventure trope of some sort of trap where the walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. What are our characters going to do? They need to find some way to escape. And this allows us to very quickly show the three characters responding to conflict in very specific ways. This immediately is going to very quickly, and this is really important for a short story, very quickly allow us to be able to say these are the kind of characters we're dealing with. We have our main character who is going to be trying to solve the problem. They are actively the one doing the work that needs to happen in order to solve the problem. We have our side character, and of course all these things are going to be replaced. We have our side character who is going to be assisting the main character, trying to do what they can to also help the main character solve the problem. In Indiana Jones, you have Short Round, right? In the second story, and Short Round is taking orders from Indiana Jones and contributing in any way that they can. Stefan. Oh, interesting. Okay, but it's okay with the name pronunciation here a lot. My great-grandfather. Very interesting. Well, welcome to the chat. Stefan. Stefan, is that it? Did it work? Stefan. Let me know if I got that right. That'd be really cool. That's a cool name. In our case here, opening it up in a scene of action means we can have action tell us a lot about the characters. And the trope that we're leaning into with this storytelling is going to be main character, who's our leader, our action. We have our side character who's assisting, and we have our manzel in distress, not our damsel in distress, our manzel in distress, because we're switching these gender roles. And what we need to see is panic in the manzel in distress, leadership in the leader, and our sidekick attempting to help. In our case, I'm thinking our sidekick is not going to be able to do everything that they want to do. They're going to be trying to help, but they're not always going to be able to succeed like our swashbuckling hero always will be able to succeed. In this opening prologue, I very quickly had the idea for two things. One, how is our character going to be getting out of this trap, these walls closing in? And I was thinking, is there some kind of cool thing, tool or weapon that our main character can have? Indiana Jones has his whip. And I was like, I don't know, that may seem a little too on the nose, and we can't do the whip just like Indiana Jones. So I was like, okay, we'll just give our main character a pistol. But the problem with guns, in a lot of stories, the problem with guns is that they end up being something to solve every problem. If our main character was to encounter later on a villain, what's to stop our main character from just shooting the villain? If our main character was to encounter some monster, are they just going to shoot their gun at the monster until it runs out of ammo? And that's kind of lame. So I decided right in this instance, we're going to have our main character try to have to shoot their gun, trying to destroy whatever mechanism is causing these walls to close. And then that fails. And then they shove their gun into the gears that they're able to reach that stops everything from happening, stops the walls from closing in. And this serves two purposes. The first is that we see that our main character, one, maybe is a really good shot. They're talented. They're the swashbuckling character. That's their proficiency. But when things don't work, they're able to find another solution, and it's usually going to be one of making a solution happen, not playing by the rules, shoving a gun into the gears because that's what they need to do next. And their brain is always working at trying to solve that problem. That's going to be important because we want to establish that with our main character, and later on in our story, we're going to keep going back to the well. We're going to keep doing this. This is an intrinsic part of our swashbuckling character. But also, sticking that gun in the gears of this mechanism means that we can take the gun out of the equation for the rest of the story. They didn't come into these caves unprepared, but we used our weapon that we brought, we stuck it in the gears, we can't retrieve that weapon or else something bad's going to happen. We kill two birds with one stone. Oh, very cool. Maury, where do you reside? From this point on in our story, rifle into the gears would work. Exactly, Corby. This serves two things. We get the gun out of play, but also it allows us a very cheeky way to use Chekhov's gun. Maybe there's something that happens later in the story as we're escaping that we're coming back through the same way, and we can retrieve that gun and use it to finish closing the walls of these things, maybe killing our villain, maybe buying us a little bit more time to escape, maybe doing X, Y, or Z. A very cheeky Chekhov's gun. After we get through this first trap, which is not the climax of our first scene, this is our opening scene, so we want to get through this pretty quickly. We then have our moment of sort of relief, where we can actually explore character reactions. Hey, look at that. That's so cool. Thank you guys both for joining us halfway across the world. Shout out from Wisconsin, United States. Hello. Hello. So at this point, now in my brain dump, I'm trying to explore the interactions between our characters. One thing I liked in the second Indiana Jones movie is our sidekick, Short Round, and our love interest, I cannot remember the character's name, our sidekick was kind of antagonistic, kind of jealous of how much attention the side character is getting from our main character. Oh, Wessel. And I wanted to establish that here. So in my next brain dump here in this next paragraph, see if we can figure out a way to get this better on the screen. Okay, maybe we can work with this. Hold on. Let me see what I can do here. Oh, your favorite streamer making it work. Making it work. Look at that. Oh, there's the brain dump. There's a reason why YouTube pays me the big bucks. All right. So now you can see this. I know it's maybe not the most easiest to read sort of thing. Let me trim some of this off. Yoink. Let's go. All right. So again, maybe not the easiest thing to read, but now at least you can read it if you are so interested. Okay, so we get past our opening trap. It just shows a couple character things, and then we want to be able to take a breath and have our characters actually interact with each other. This is where I want to establish that our main character, the swashbuckling hero, keeps everyone sort of together. We get our sidekick and our manzel in distress having some antagonism between each other. This is going to be important to establish now so that later on it either pays off in a character being bad, and now it didn't come out of nowhere. We've seen this antagonism before. Or we see a character overcome this badness, and now they redeem themselves. So this manzel in distress could be a character that is somewhat greedy, somewhat sneaky, has ulterior motives, but overcomes them at a later point to become sort of a hero, right? Especially if we bring in the ideas, the tropes of having characters that are greedy and, want to grab treasure and be rich and be famous, which is what I've established here in part of the plot dump. That means that later on we can overcome these sort of negative qualities. Sidekick is named Tall Square. Yes, Tall Square, our Texan lanky manzel in distress. Shoot. Okay, so in our brain dump here, those are some of the things that we're trying to do, establish these character moments. After we establish these moments and kind of have very brief discussion of why we're here, what we're doing, what's the point, then we move on to a big set piece. And this is going to be the set piece where the rest of our story takes place. In our case here, we're going to be inside this volcano. That was the setting that we picked in our poll. And one of these like aesthetic options I think is really cool is I really like, I believe it's Petra. It's maybe the name of it, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. More, you're reading ahead. You're reading ahead. One thing I really liked in sort of like some of these ruins of places are places that are carved out of the stone. And so what we want is our characters move into the main set piece for our story, where we have a huge temple carved out of the mountainside. And so we have this aesthetics of maybe lava falls off to the distance, giving us the light that we need to see inside. Maybe there are mysteriously some torches still being used there. Maybe the room is hella hot because in this lava, in this volcano that we're in, where this temple is at, maybe lava is even used as lighting. Pools of lava or waterfalls of lava or trenches of lava that are moving through this temple, creating the lighting that we need to see. Very cinematic moment that we can write about. Corby says sidekicks. What did I see? Something about a seismologist? Manzel is a seismologist. Hey, I might steal that, Corby. But we're not co-authoring. This is mine. Take that. Oh, is Maury and Stefan, are you guys in the same place? We've had that happen in the Discord already. Two people who joined the writing Discord, it turns out they went to like the same high school and they probably lived within a mile of each other. Or a couple kilometers. Okay. All right. And so in our 5 minutes, this is about how far I got. We're to the temple. We've established our MacGuffin. The reason that we're here, we have some sort of obsidian talisman that historically holds back the spirits, holds back the gods. Of course, our man's in distress doesn't believe that. Our leader is kind of, like, yes, I get it. It doesn't make sense, but like the volcano was dormant until this was removed. We need to return it. That's our classic tropey adventure. And now we're going to start to lean a little bit more into the horror aspects of our story. As I continue with this story dump, what we're going to do, I'm going to build out this setting, and I need to figure out how can we get a couple different story beats and climaxes out of this setting. This is where we're going to slow the story down. We had our moment of action at the beginning. We're going to slow the story down, and we're going to explore our different themes. Where specifically, what I really want to focus on is also giving each character some instance of challenge that they will have to overcome later. And I started planting the seeds for this. So you can see in my plot dump here, one of the things I have are Manzo in distress talking about the treasure and fame that they're going to get whenever they get out of here. Why don't they just turn around? They can go ahead and leave, okay? Our side character telling them to shut up. They're antagonistic. They're at odds. And this is going to be showcased in our description and our character interactions. Our main character, always action forward, is going to pick up some sort of weapon. They find a spear at the door of the temple. They're going to bring it in. This is going to set up when we have our spirit come back. This thing that we were looking at before in my Scrivener file. Where's that at? This guy, when he crawls out of the lava as our villain and we have to escape, is going to recognize that spear and think that our main guy is some worshiper of him, right? Taking that a page from the playbook back from the mummy. I think that happens. We also have, I was just about to write, our side character is going to picks up a obsidian dagger, thinking they need to arm themselves as well. They're following in the footsteps of our main character, and our Manzel in distress does not pick up a weapon, but starts stuffing pockets with valuables. All right. These are the kind of things I'm thinking about whenever I'm planning a story, even though this is like the most basic plot dump, right? The most basic starting point. The things that we're figuring out now are a lot of what can we do now that'll pay off later. That's a big way that I go about planning my stories. And that was something I learned from writing Starlight Farm's Kennel for Talking Dogs, is afterwards realizing how satisfying that is. And all of my next projects are sort of planned with more of a focus on what can I do now that'll be impactful later. Oh, Maury, that's good. That's good. You got a problem with our guy? We need a name for this guy. We need a name. In my story planning, where this image is from, is just the story, or the spirit ambassador. He's not even a bad guy. Honestly, he's a good guy in this story. Give me some good name for this. I think we traced the image down to someplace in Indonesia. If you can find something influenced by that, I think that would be quite nice. But that's yeah, a little creepy. All right, Gregory. Thank you, 69. Thank you for that. That is a great name. These dogs, man. Here's my golden retriever, Moose, loves to curl around the wheels of my rolling chair. So if I ever need to go somewhere, I got to be the bad guy, feeling like this boy over here. I got to be the bad guy, telling him he's got to move. God of Lava, Chicana. That's a good one. Anarok. Anarok's a good one. Anarok, Chicana. Interesting. Gregory. The emphasis is on the gory at the end. Okay. All right. Well, I was only able to get partway through our plot dump, so I'm gonna take us another Gregory the Allegory. I think I'm gonna take us another 10 minutes. and do a little bit more plot dump. And also it's lunchtime here. And I like lunch. And I have a ton of video editing to do. So actually, you know what? Here's what we're going to do. You can see where we're starting here. I'm going to pick up this and I'm going to keep writing it. But we've done a lot of planning. You can see sort of the very beginnings of short story planning. I need to be better about keeping things on pace. So that's something that we'll do in the future as we get closer to October, November, December. So yeah. Let's go back into this guy. So here's the deal. I'm going to keep working on the story. I post all the stories that I write for each writing challenge over on my website, writingtheory.com/stories. You can read them there. This will eventually end up there. I may do another live stream later this week where I continue working on this. Maybe try to structure it a little bit more about the writing sprints. I didn't really know how I was going to approach that today. But before I check out... yeah. 10 minutes is honestly too short when it comes to doing this sort of planning. I think a good plot dump probably takes about 30 to 40 minutes, especially as you start figuring things out. It's so much easier to build on top of things that you've already discovered. It is way harder to start, right? That's always going to be the case. In the case here, I'm going to open this up. If you guys have any questions about writing specific things, stories that you're writing, whether they're writing challenge focused or not, we're going to, Afi. Samoan word meaning fire. Afi. I might use Afi as a root word for the name of this demon. I feel like Afi, it feels a little awkward to me. Of course, that is my Americanness showing through. I may be able to combine some of these Afi rock, Chikafi. I should probably be careful with just spouting off random words like that. All right. We have any general questions about writing? Stories that you're writing, short stories you're working on for the writing challenge or not? How do you go about planning X, Y, or Z? I'll kind of open this up for another couple minutes, and then we're going to wrap up. I'm going to go get some lunch and then start working on video stuff. But that is all this. Also, for those who are still just joining us as we're wrapping this up, I'm writing in NovelPad, who has sort of collaborated with us for this writing challenge. If you hop into the Discord, link below, join the Discord. You can hop in and use NovelPad for free for this writing challenge. This is a paid tool, but as long as you are writing a story for one of our writing challenges, you get to use NovelPad completely for free. And that is super cool. So if you are interested in trying this out, if you're interested in being part of a community that's doing a ton of writing, if you are, I don't know, just want to chat about story, the Discord is a great place to go. How'd you fare if my story mentioned the rules like 3 times, far few in between? As long as I can tell at the end of the story how the theme of 3 rules influenced your story, that's a pass. The more uniquely and interesting that you incorporate that theme into your story, the better score you get. But creativity for this kind of thing, it's kind of a loaded thing. It's graded on a curve. You do not have to outright mention all 3 rules. You can if you want to. It completely comes down to how you want to do it. I figured out rewriting work and Second of the series to follow the non-fantasy one. Nice, interesting. 2 different genres. Interesting take. Currently writing a story about my minority ethnic group, sci-fi, inspired by Afrikaans heritage and culture, but don't know how to begin. Any suggestions? Stefan, great question. because there is a way to begin. Watch my video on the proto draft. I'll talk about it more in depth there, but allow yourself to write what's called a temporary beginning. Allow yourself to say like, hey, maybe I don't fully know how to start my story, but that shouldn't stop me from trying. Every story that I write, I start with a temporary beginning, knowing that by the time I do actually finish writing my story, I'm going to know my characters and the themes of the story so much better. I'm going to want to go back to the beginning and rewrite it anyways. You learn so much about your story by writing your story. So I would recommend start by just diving in and writing a beginning that gets you past the beginning and onto the good stuff, with the knowledge that you know you're going to come back and change it. Don't let not knowing how to start your story stop you from starting your story. If that makes sense. You should join in Saturday, 2,000 to 5,000 words. Maury, you are killing it. You're like the brand ambassador. I love it. It's our family and divided. Dark. When are we getting it? Oh, Cora B and dark stories. They go hand in hand like peanut butter and jelly. Ain't that the truth? Here's a quote. John Romero. Do the beginning last, because by the time you finish, you have the experience to make it. Yeah, it's almost like a paradox, right? Let's say like in our basement, we had this popcorn ceiling texture that my wife wanted to remove. And so it's a tedious project. You have to learn a lot about how to do this sort of thing in order to do it well. But you only do it well by the time you finish the project. We spent days scraping these popcorn ceilings off of the ceiling so we could have like a smooth texture across the ceiling. And it's only by the time that we finished doing it that we felt like we were somewhat good at it. But guess what? Now we're never going to have to do it again. Same idea with writing, right? The idea that like at the start of your story, you only know a little bit about your characters. You only know a little bit about your plot. You only know a little bit about your themes. By the end of your story, you've figured all that kind of stuff out. But luckily, when it comes to writing, you can go back to the start and touch things up and fix things up. And it's like you knew what you were doing the whole time. Mechanical ship used for diving under the sand. That sounds really cool, Stefan. He's having a panic attack. Nice. Look, we're in an era where mental health has a much greater focus in storytelling. It's a great way to show that your character is a real person. But also, you got to treat it with respect. You don't want to downplay mental health, of course. You've heard it. You know what I'm talking. You know what I'm talking about. Most F-bombs ever in a novel. Records are made to be broken. Corby's going to write the novel with the most F-bombs ever in a novel until the sequel. Everyone, I've had a really good time hanging out with you. These live streams are a lot of fun. I never know what I'm getting into when I start one, whether we're going to be doing a tier list like we did last time, or if we're going to do a question and answer, or if we're going to try to do some writing. In our next one, it'll be more writing focused. I love doing the live streams, but I also want to be able to write and work on my own stories. It would be great to combine these things all into one. So in the future, we'll be playing around with that a little bit more. All right, I think I'm going to wrap up the live stream. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I hope to see you in the next one. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with Writing Theory. If you're not part of the Discord, of course, go check it out. If you want to pick up my book, Starlight Farms Kennel for Talking Dogs, it is down in the comments. I did a 4-part series about how to write a book that showcases everything about the challenges, the successes, the failures that I went through in writing that book. Everything from the first idea to the first word to the editing process to how to publish that and choose the title and the cover and everything like that. And then one day I'll do a video all about the advertising that goes into it on Amazon. What's good, what's bad. It's a whole different world on the other side of being a writer after you've written the story that I was not prepared for. Yeah, check it out. If you've read the book and you liked it, put in a review on Amazon, an honest review about how you felt about it. It could be good. I know it's not a perfect book. It's just something I wanted to share with the world, but that would go really far into helping me out. So, yeah, thank you everyone for that picked up the book. And then, hey, I hope to see you in the Discord. That's all I got for you. Maury and Stefan, come hang out in the Discord. You guys would fit right in. I see the conversations that you have in the chat. That's all that we do in the Discords. Talk about stuff like that. You feel free to share your own writing in there for feedback, critique, ask questions, get answers from other writers just like you. You and me. All right, I'm checking out. I'm going to go have some lunch. Everyone, take care. Have a good time. I'm going to stop streaming. I'm going to click this button, but then I now need to click yes.